Hey guys, my last mini PC suddenly wouldn't turn on, so I'm in the market for a new one. This time I wanted one with an OCuLink interface so I can use my AVerMedia PCI Express capture card. So I reached out to GMKtec. They wanted to work with me in the past. It never quite worked out, but here we are. We are reviewing the EVO-T1. This is one of their flagship mini PCs. It has an Intel Core Ultra 9 285H CPU, 64 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. Let's start talking about the processor. This is one of Intel's high-end CPUs. There are 16 cores and they are broken down into 6 performance cores, 8 efficiency cores and 2 low power efficiency cores. The maximum turbo frequency is 5.4 gigahertz. We have 24 megabytes of cache and the processor base power is 45 watts. However, this mini PC has a few tricks up its sleeve. You can go into the BIOS and here you can give the processor more power to get higher performance, of course at the cost of higher power consumption and more noise. We will look at that in more detail later. Down here, GMKtec shares a Cinebench 2024 multi-core result of 1048. I did my own testing and scored a little bit higher with 1114, and maybe this is because I'm always doing a clean installation of Windows 11. I checked their website. They've got a download center and you can download here the operating systems as well as the drivers for all the mini PCs. I created a USB thumb drive with Rufus, then ran all the Windows updates, and very important, you need to go to the Intel website to download all the latest drivers, especially for the graphics, and then I'm also going into the power profile to configure maximum performance. Let's dive straight into some benchmarks. Cinebench R15, 3149 for the multi-core and 317 for the single-core test. In R20, we're getting basically 8,000 points for the multi and 828 for the single core test. In R23, we're getting 20,370 for the multi-core and 2,141 for the single core test. And in Cinebench 2024, 1,114 for the multi and 128 for the single core test. I ran Geekbench and we're getting 16,111 for the multi-core and 2,881 for the single core test. I put the multi-core results for R23 into a graph and we can see the improvement Intel has made over previous generations. It's still a little bit behind AMD, but not by much. In the single core test, this processor really shines. 2,141 is the highest result I have benchmarked so far out of all the mini PCs I've tested on the channel. What are we going to do with all this power? Of course, we will be running Windows 98 in the 86-box emulator. I put together a Pentium 2, clocked at 300 MHz with 2 3DFX Voodoo 2 cards in SLI. Here we have the Unreal Castle time demo running flawlessly with the Glide API. The emulation percentage on the top right-hand corner stays at 100%. The audio is clear without any stutters, so this is wonderful. And now let's go back to those BIOS options. So I'm running Cinebench R23, the multi-core test, with those 3 power profiles. And we can see in multi-threaded situations, we will definitely lose some performance. Single-threaded tasks don't lose much performance, even with the quiet profile, which has roughly half the TDP. Well, we are still getting around 2,100 points for that one. I used a power meter connected to the wall outlet, measuring the power consumption of the entire computer. We can see a huge difference. The performance mode draws around 100 watts, and then you can see with balanced and quiet how much energy consumption you can save. In terms of temperatures, I ran HW info in the background to log the temperatures. In quiet and balanced, I saw the CPU temperature go into the 80s. The performance mode was a little bit higher in the 90s. And of course, the fan also goes louder, but it's not an unpleasant sound. I have some recordings here. Also, the fans can be configured in the BIOS. The Intel Arc 140T graphics is also very impressive. Here we have some results in Firestrike. It's a nice improvement over the previous Intel mini PCs. Still a little bit behind what's available with AMD, but you will be able to play most games just fine at 1080p. We'll come back to games a little bit later. Now let's take a look inside the box, check out all the ports, and then we will tear down this mini PC to see what's inside. In the box we have the mini PC, of course, and a user manual. I had a quick look. Important information: press Escape to access the BIOS, press F7 to access the boot menu. We get a HDMI cable, it's 1.5 meter long. Here we have the power supply, 148 watts, surprisingly compact, only 242 grams, measuring 8 by 7 centimeters and 2.5 centimeters thickness. The cable from the power supply to the mini PC is 1.5 meters long, and the cable going from the power supply into the wall outlet is 1 meter long. If you need to replace the power supply, it's always important to know exactly what the measurements of the port are. And I'm really impressed. GMKtec publishes this information on the website. It's a 55-25 connector. That means the outer diameter is 55 millimeters and the inner one is 25. We also get a VESA mount, so you can attach this to the back of a monitor or maybe to a stand. And here is a warranty card in case you have any issues. This mini PC is a little bit larger, 15 centimeters wide and also 15 centimeters deep, around 7.5 centimeters tall, and it weighs just under 1 kilo or 2 pounds. It has feet at the bottom, but there are also rubber feet on one of the sides, so you can tilt it up and use it vertically, which is what I am going to use. So this is also a nice little aspect. And now let's go over everything at the front of the unit. There's a CMOS clear in case you misconfigured some BIOS settings. The BIOS on this machine is unlocked, so you can easily get into trouble. There is a power button with a LED, but I must say the LED is barely visible. From a distance, it's really hard to tell if the unit is on or off, especially during daylight. Speaking about LEDs, there is a 90mm RGB fan at the top of the unit with a button to cycle between RGB colors. But just like with the power button, it is barely visible. I've got footage here and I'm holding a RGB mouse next to it so you can compare, and it's just too dark to be really useful. The RGB light can also be turned off. We have 3 USB ports and they're all 10 gigabits. I did some copying of files to see if everything works, and yeah, I'm getting a transfer rate of around 1 gigabyte per second. There is a Type-C port which does 10 gigabits of data. It has power delivery and display port. So that means we can use a portable monitor with a single USB-C cable. I've tested this with one of my portable monitors. This one runs at 4K 60 and worked beautifully, so you just need a single cable for the power and for the video. And then we have a TRRS audio port. This means you can plug in both a headphone or a headset with a microphone. At the back we have a Kensington connector. Here goes the power supply, and we have another TRRS connector to plug in headphones or a headset. Here we have an HDMI port. It's version 2.1, which is nice, supporting up to 8K 60. Right nearby is the DisplayPort connector. This one is version 1.4, supporting up to 8K 120. And here we have a USB 4 port. This one does 40 gigabits of data. We also have power delivery and DisplayPort. And again, I plug in the portable monitor to see if it works, and it does. With a single cable, you can drive a monitor without needing additional power. All up, this mini PC can drive 4 monitors. And here is the OCuLink interface. This is a real highlight. I checked out other mini PCs with this processor from B-Link and Geekom, and they do not have this port. So what is OCuLink? It is basically an external PCI Express connection. It supports version 4.0 with 4 lanes and a transfer rate of 64 gigabits per second. This means it is faster than using an eGPU that uses USB 4 or Thunderbolt 4. So for a lot of you, this is very interesting. You can drive a high performance video card and play games even better. For me, I'm more into the older games, so the internal graphics will do just fine. And I'm a content creator, so I will be using this port to use an AverMedia PCI Express capture card. It connects very easily. My eDock uses a DC power supply, so it doesn't use ATX. We've got a red light, that means it's working. We just need to install the drivers, and here we go. The RGB colors kick in with the driver loaded. I'm running the performance test. Everything is working, 4K 60 in the RGB color space, beautiful. There are two more USB ports, but these are only USB 2.0. And here we have two Ethernet connectors. They're both 2.5 gigabit with chips from Realtek, the RTL 8125BG. And now it's time to get out the toolbox and tear down this mini PC to find out what's inside. The case is made out of plastic, so that's definitely noticeable. There are 4 feet at the bottom. You just unscrew them with your thumbs. Then we remove the metal bracket, which looks appealing and also functions as a fan cover for the top and bottom cooling fans. There are 4 more screws, 2 on each side, and then we can carefully pull the mini PC apart. Watch out for some cables. One is for the RGB fan, and there are 2 more little wires. These are for the Wi-Fi antennas. And if you want to totally remove the motherboard, there are 4 more screws. I did that process because I wanted to have a look at the cooling solution. Here we can see the cooler that's at the bottom of the unit. It uses a vapor chamber heat pipe and cools the processor. At the top, we have a 90mm RGB fan, and this one cools the top of the board. So that means the M.2 storage, the RAM, and the Wi-Fi module. Here we have a nice illustration what that looks like. I do recommend that they flip this image upside down because here are the rubber feet, but you get the idea. All in all, the cooling solution works really well. There are 2 RAM slots, and my unit was configured with 2 32GB modules from ADATA. On the Intel website, we can see that this processor supports memory types up to DDR5 6400. The memory that's installed runs a little bit slower at 5600 megatransfers. If you want more RAM, the machine supports up to 128GB of RAM. Also very nifty, in the BIOS you can allocate up to 32GB of VRAM, so that's very interesting, especially if you want to do some AI stuff, and we'll talk about that later in the video. Here we can see the Wi-Fi module. It's the Intel AX201. It's a good one, but it's only Wi-Fi 6, and I believe for a mini PC at this price class, you do want to get Wi-Fi 7. With the storage, I got a nice surprise. Not 1, not 2, but 3 M.2 slots. This is the first time I'm seeing this in a mini PC. On their website, they've got some more technical details. It mentions here it supports up to 24 terabytes if you install 3 8TB SSDs. Installed is a 1TB model from Crucial, the P3 Plus. I looked into this model. It's a budget to mid-range SSD using QLC NAND, and also it doesn't have any DRAM. And now let's talk about gaming. I ran a few benchmarks in 3D Mark CloudGate, 41,160. In Skydiver, 33,083. And in Firestrike, 8,251. If you are into the latest AAA games, there are many videos out there that do that. I'm more into the older games. I have a huge backlog of games that are picked up over the years. And also I like testing the same games to compare these mini PCs a little bit better. Dirt 3 is always the first game I'm playing, running at 1080p with the high details, already over 200 FPS. That is a really good start. I crank up the details to ultra and still we're getting over 100 FPS. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is also a game I like to test. We're running at 1080p. Now this game is more demanding, so the details are set to the lowest option, but it's running well. We are getting around 60 FPS, and this shows that on this mini PC you can definitely play even some of the more demanding games at 1080p. If you are into older games, well, then you can run them at 1080p with high details and it will still run silky smooth. The Intel graphics is also excellent for video editing. It has a very good video encoder and decoder, and it's very well supported through software. For example, I'm using the open source Shotcut video editor, and it just runs better on Intel-based mini PCs compared to AMD, even if the AMD benchmarks show that it's stronger. So some software just runs better on Intel or AMD. It comes down to what you're actually doing with the machine. GMKtec asked me to cover AI. Now this is a topic I really don't know much about, so we will just go over these specifications and I have a few benchmarks. The processor can do up to 99 TOPS. That includes the processor, the graphics, and there is an NPU. The dedicated NPU has 13 TOPS. That is a little bit on the low side, and it means unfortunately that for those of you who are interested, the Windows Copilot is not supported. The Intel Arc 140T GPU is much stronger. We have specifications here, 77 TOPS. Geekbench have an AI benchmark. Here are the results for the processor. These are the results for the dedicated NPU. And here we have the results for the Intel Arc 140T GPU. Out of the box, this mini PC also comes with 2 large language models from DeepSeek. Now, I'm really not an expert, I'm new to all of this, but my understanding is that mini PCs have unified memory, and with the ability to allocate 32 gigabytes of dedicated VRAM, it's possible to run large language models on such mini PCs, and it's much cheaper than going out and buying a graphics card that has 32 gigabytes of VRAM. If you have anything to share here, please do so. I always want to learn more. And now let's have a look at prices. As always, these are from the time of producing this video and they can change. You can buy this mini PC in a bare bone configuration without RAM, without storage. You're looking at $800. The version that I reviewed with 64 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage, you're looking at $1,000 USD. But this seems to be a special. If you want a 2 terabyte SSD, you're looking at 1,370 USD. We also have prices from the GMKtec Amazon store. There is no bare bones version. The configuration that I reviewed in this video, you're looking at 1,040 USD. And for the model with the 2 terabyte SSD, you're looking at the same price as buying directly from GMKtec, 1,370. If you're still watching this video, well, this is awesome. I will now permanently set up this computer. I want to at least produce 1 or 2 videos, the whole process that I usually go through, and then I'll report back how things went. So guys, I've edited my first video with the EVO-T1. It's about this little PCI Express video card, the Matrox G550. So this will drop on the channel very shortly. The performance was excellent. Video editing in particular is a dream. I think it's partly because it's an Intel CPU, the Intel video decoders, and just the Intel ecosystem having good support with a lot of software out there. In my case, I'm using the Shotcut video editor. It might be different for you if you're using other software, but for the tools that I use, the performance has been outstanding. So the performance is excellent, no doubt. In terms of power consumption, temperatures, and noise, it is definitely higher than some of the other mini PCs because it pulls a lot more power, up to around 100 watts on the wall with the high performance preset, but the cooling solution is well done, so it's not an annoying sound like some of the early mini PCs that had really tiny fans and would have high RPM. The areas for improvement, it would be nice seeing Wi-Fi 7 in this one, and the RGB fan is just not really visible. And another thing I picked up while using the mini PC is the lack of a USB 3 Type A port at the back. Because I'm using a USB-C connector to drive a portable monitor, there's no other USB 3 port at the back to, for example, plug in a external hard drive dock or something like that. But this is an aspect where, as a mini PC manufacturer, you can't win. You have to make a choice with what ports you put at the front and at the back. So it really comes down to your setup. Not everyone uses the USB-C port to drive a portable monitor. You can get a nice dock or a nice USB hub and then attach all the devices through that. The OCuLink port also worked fantastic. I didn't have any disconnections or interruptions with the AVerMedia capture card. So all in all, I'm really happy with the performance, and for what I do on the channel, this mini PC is a really good fit. But as always, everyone has a different opinion. I would love to hear yours. This video might drop on a Tuesday, so I'm looking forward to having a coffee on Wednesday morning, reading your comments and getting your feedback and suggestions. And big thank you for GMKtec in working with us, sending out this mini PC. I really appreciate it. And big thank you out to you guys as well for supporting the channel, watching my videos, and there are many more to come. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I shall see you soon with another one.